6 Messerschmitt Bf-109s drop from the sun like hammers. Their cannons are charged, their dive angles perfect, their targets locked. Below them 4 American P-51 Mustangs scatter in textbook defensive breaks. The formation dissolves into chaos. Radio calls overlap, urgent and clipped. Then one pilot does something that makes no sense. His landing gear drops, the wheels unfold into the slipstream with a mechanical groan, audible even through the roar of combat. His squadron leader screams at him to raise the gear. The Germans see it too. They think he is surrendering, or his hydraulics have failed, or he is already dead and the aircraft is simply falling. They commit to the kill, full throttle, nose down, fingers on triggers. But the rookie pilot is not dying, he is calculating. In the next 30 seconds, 6 German fighters will be smoking ruins, tumbling toward French farmland, and every assumption about air combat will require revision. March 1944, somewhere over occupied France. The European Air War in early 1944 consumes men and machines at rates that keep logistics officers awake at night. The 8th Air Force flies deep penetration raids into the heart of Nazi Germany. Hundreds of bombers, tens of thousands of crew members, all depending on fighter escorts that can barely reach the target and return. The P-51 Mustang has changed the equation. Its range is unprecedented, its speed competitive, its firepower adequate. But range and speed do not guarantee survival. German pilots are veterans. Many have flown since 1939, accumulating thousands of hours and hundreds of kills. They understand energy tactics, vertical maneuvers, and the precise moment when an American pilot's options collapse into inevitability. Luftwaffe doctrine in 1944 emphasizes altitude advantage. Climb high, position above and behind, dive with the sun at your back. The dive builds speed to over 400 miles per hour. At that velocity, the attacking fighter becomes nearly impossible to track. Defensive gunners and bombers have seconds to react. Escort fighters have even less. The closure rate compresses decision time into fractions. By the time you see the threat has already fired. American pilots are trained to counter this. Maintain situational awareness, scan constantly, never fly straight and level for more than 20 seconds. If bounced from above, brake hard toward the attacker, forcing an overshoot, then extend away using superior speed. The doctrine works when executed correctly. But execution requires seeing the attack early, reacting instantly, and having enough airspeed to extend. Most pilots do not have all three. The result is attrition. Every mission costs aircraft. Every week costs pilots. Replacements arrive from stateside training programs with 200 hours of flight time and 0 combat experience. They are boys, 19 and 20 years old, fresh-faced and terrified. Some last a week, some last one mission. The veterans stop learning their names. They focus on formations, fuel calculations, and survival. They teach the new pilots what they can in the minutes before takeoff. Keep your head moving. Trust your wingman. Do not chase kills. Do not try to be a hero. Follow doctrine. And maybe you live long enough to understand why doctrine exists. But on this day, over the patchwork fields of France, one rookie will break every rule and prove that sometimes survival requires doing exactly what training forbids. The mathematics of bomber escort in 1944 are simple and merciless. A B-17 Flying Fortress carries 10 crew members. A typical mission involves 300 bombers. 3,000 men climb into aluminum tubes every morning knowing the statistics. 20% will not return. Some will be killed instantly by flak or fighters. Others will bail out over enemy territory and spend the rest of the war in prison camps. A few will crash land in neutral countries. The lucky ones ditch in the English Channel and get rescued by air-sea rescue launches. The unlucky ones simply disappear. The North Sea swallows wreckage without ceremony. Bodies are never recovered. Families receive telegrams with phrases like "missing in action" and "presumed lost." The bomber crews understand the odds. They paint names on their aircraft, carry lucky charms, write letters before every mission. Some pray, some drink, some sit in silence, staring at nothing. They all climb aboard when the engines start. Fighter escorts are supposed to protect them. In theory, the P-51 Mustang solves the problem. Its range allows it to accompany bombers all the way to Berlin and back. Its speed matches or exceeds most German fighters. Its 6 50 caliber machine guns deliver devastating firepower. But theory collides with reality over the Ruhr Valley, over Schweinfurt, over every contested mile of German airspace. The Luftwaffe has been fighting since 1939. Their pilots are professionals. They have flown in Spain, Poland, France, Russia. They know every trick, every maneuver, every weakness in Allied tactics. They study captured aircraft. They interrogate downed pilots. They adapt faster than American training programs can update doctrine. German fighter tactics in 1944 emphasized teamwork and energy management. They hunt in pairs or groups of 4. One element attacks while another covers. If the first pass fails, they climb away, reposition, and attack again. They force American escorts to choose between protecting the bombers and engaging the fighters. Every second an escort spends dogfighting is a second the bombers fly undefended. The most effective German tactic is the vertical attack. Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf Fw-190s climb to 25,000 feet or higher. They orbit above the bomber stream, waiting for gaps in the escort coverage. When they spot an opening, they roll inverted and dive. Gravity accelerates them past 400 miles per hour. At that speed, they close the distance in seconds. Bomber gunners track them, but cannot lead the targets fast enough. The German fighters fire a burst, pull through the formation, and zoom climb back to altitude. The entire attack lasts less than 10 seconds. By the time escort fighters react, the Germans are gone, climbing away untouchable. This tactic works because of physics. An aircraft diving has enormous kinetic energy. An aircraft climbing away converts that kinetic energy back into potential energy. The pursuing fighter must match that energy expenditure. If the American pilot commits to the chase, he burns fuel and altitude. If he breaks off, the German resets and attacks again. It is a war of attrition, and the Germans are winning. Robert Krauss grows up in a place where the horizon stretches unbroken in every direction. Rural Iowa, 1924. His father farms 300 acres of corn and soybeans. His mother teaches at the one-room schoolhouse 2 miles down the dirt road. Bobby is the middle child of 5, quiet where his brothers are loud, observant where his sisters are social. He spends his childhood in the machine shed, watching his father repair tractors, combines, and threshers. He learns that every mechanism has logic. Gears mesh in predictable ratios. Levers multiply force. Pulleys change direction. Nothing happens by accident. Everything obeys rules. By age 12, Bobby can diagnose engine problems by sound. A miss in the firing sequence. A bearing going bad. A carburetor running lean. His father stops doing repairs himself. He hands Bobby the tools and watches. The boy works methodically, testing hypotheses, eliminating variables. He does not guess. He reasons. When the engine starts, he explains what was wrong and why the fix works. His father nods, impressed but unsurprised. The boy has a gift. At 15, Bobby rebuilds a Model T Ford from scrap parts. He sources components from 3 counties, trading labor for pieces. The transmission comes from a car that rolled into a creek. The engine block comes from a barn fire. He machines new parts on a lathe in the high school shop class. It takes him 2 years. When he finishes, the car runs perfectly. He drives it to school every day, parking it next to trucks and newer sedans. Classmates ask how he did it. He shrugs. You just have to understand how things work. Bobby graduates high school in 1942. The war has been raging in Europe for 3 years. Pearl Harbor happened 6 months ago. Every boy his age is enlisting or waiting for the draft. Bobby wants to fly. Not because of glory or adventure, because aircraft are the most complex machines he has ever seen. He wants to understand them. He walks into the Army Air Force's recruiting office in Des Moines and volunteers. The recruiter asks why he wants to be a pilot. Bobby says he wants to know how airplanes stay up. The recruiter laughs, stamps the paperwork, and sends him to basic training. Flight training reveals something unexpected. Bobby is not a natural pilot. He struggles with the instinctive feel that other cadets possess. His instructors criticize his hesitation, his overanalysis. But his technical scores are perfect. He understands aerodynamics, engine mechanics, navigation. He can calculate fuel consumption in his head. He knows the theoretical limits of every aircraft he flies. His instructors pass him, barely. He is competent, methodical, safe. He will never be an ace, but he might survive long enough to complete his tour. They assign him to P-51 Mustangs and ship him to England in February 1944. The P-51 Mustang is a triumph of engineering and a source of constant frustration. Its Packard-built Merlin engine delivers 1,470 horsepower. Its laminar flow wing generates lift with minimal drag. Its internal fuel capacity, supplemented by drop tanks, allows missions exceeding 6 hours. On paper, it outperforms nearly every German fighter in service. In practice, combat is not fought on paper. The Mustang's advantages are speed and range. At 25,000 feet, it can reach 440 miles per hour in level flight. No Bf-109 or Fw-190 can match that sustained, but speed alone does not win dogfights. Position does. Altitude does. The pilot who sees first, maneuvers first, and fires first usually wins. German pilots have learned to negate American speed through disciplined tactics. They refuse to chase. They refuse to turn. They attack from above, execute one pass, and climb away. If the American pilot takes the bait and pursues, he burns energy climbing. The German fighter simply extends vertically, resetting the engagement on favorable terms. If the American refuses to chase, the German repositions and attacks again. It is a game of patience, and the Luftwaffe has been playing it for 5 years. American doctrine attempts to counter this through formation discipline. Fighters fly in pairs, each pilot protecting his wingman's blind spots. If one is attacked, the other engages the attacker. In theory, no German pilot can commit to a kill without exposing himself to the wingman's guns. In practice, German pilots attack in coordinated groups. 2 Bf-109s dive on a Mustang pair. The Americans break to defend. 2 more German fighters attack from a different angle. The formation fragments. Pilots lose sight of their wingmen. The sky fills with aircraft maneuvering independently. And that is when mistakes happen. A pilot fixates on a target and forgets to check his 6. A wingman chases too far and gets separated. A green pilot panics and stalls out in a climbing turn. The Germans exploit every error. They have the experience. They have the altitude. They dictate the terms. Flight commanders brief their squadrons before every mission. Maintain formation integrity. Do not chase kills. Protect the bombers. Conserve fuel. Return home. Simple instructions, life-saving instructions. But young pilots, hungry for kills, ignore the briefings. They see a Bf-109 in their gun sight and forget everything else. They chase. They burn fuel. They get separated. They die alone, miles from friendly territory, out of ammunition, and out of altitude. The veterans watch it happen again and again. They try to teach. They try to warn. But experience cannot be transferred through words. It must be earned through survival, and not everyone survives long enough to learn. The problem remains unsolved. How do you turn defense into offense when the enemy controls the geometry? How do you force an engagement when the enemy refuses to cooperate? How do you survive when doctrine provides no answer? Bobby arrives at his squadron in early March 1944. He is assigned to the 357th Fighter Group, stationed at an airfield in southern England. The base is mud and Quonset huts and the constant smell of aviation fuel. He meets his squadron commander, Major Frank Hollister, a lean man with crow's feet around his eyes and a handshake like a vice. Hollister looks at Bobby's logbook and frowns. 220 hours total time, 18 hours in P-51s. He asks Bobby if he understands what he is flying into. Bobby says, "Yes, sir." Hollister says, "No, you do not, but you will." He assigns Bobby to a training flight. Practice formation flying, radio discipline, emergency procedures. Do not do anything creative. Do not try to impress anyone. Just fly the airplane and come home. Bobby nods. He climbs into the cockpit of a war-weary Mustang that has been relegated to training duty. The crew chief, Sergeant Eddie Walsh, walks him through the pre-flight. He points out patches on the fuselage where cannon shells punched through. He points out a replaced wing panel. He tells Bobby the last pilot who flew this aircraft died in a mid-air collision. Bobby asks what happened. Walsh shrugs. Shit happens in combat. Stay alert. The training flight is uneventful at first. 4 Mustangs flying formation over the English countryside. The lead pilot calls out altitude changes, heading corrections. Bobby flies wing position, maintaining spacing, trying to anticipate the lead's movements. After 30 minutes, the lead calls for a mock dogfight. Brake on his signal, engage. No live ammunition, stay above 10,000 feet. Bobby acknowledges. The lead counts down. 3, 2, 1, brake. The formation scatters. Bobby pulls hard, left, throttle forward, scanning for targets. He sees a Mustang above him, turning. He pulls harder, trying to gain position. The G-forces press him into his seat. His vision tunnels. He adjusts the throttle, levels the wings, looks for another target. Then he feels the aircraft shudder. The nose pitches down. The airspeed drops. Something is wrong. He scans the instruments. Engine temperature normal, oil pressure normal, fuel flow normal. Then he sees it. The landing gear. Indicator shows down. Both main gear extended. The tail wheel extended. He did not touch the gear lever. It should be locked. He reaches for the lever and realizes it is already in the down position. His elbow must have bumped it during the hard turn. He curses, pulls the lever back up. The gear retracts. The aircraft smooths out. But in that moment, something happened. The shudder, the nose drop, the sudden deceleration. The aircraft behaved differently. The turn radius tightened. The control response changed. He thinks about it. Drag from the extended gear acted like an air brake, slowing the aircraft rapidly, allowing a sharper turn without stalling. Physics. Simple physics. He files the thought away. March 15, 1944. Bobby wakes at 0400 hours to the sound of boots on floorboards and quiet voices, the barracks smell of coffee and stale cigarettes. He dresses in the dark, pulling on layers against the pre-dawn cold. His hands shake slightly as he laces his boots. Not fear, he tells himself, just adrenaline, his first combat mission. The briefing room is crowded with pilots, some leaning against walls, others straddling chairs backward. Major Hollister stands at the front next to a map of Europe, covered in red lines and blue circles. He describes the mission in clipped sentences. Bomber escort to Augsburg. Deep penetration into southern Germany. Expected heavy resistance. Fighter opposition likely over France, and again near the target. Flak concentration moderate to heavy. Weather clear. No excuses. He assigns flight positions. Bobby is flying as number 4, tail-end position, the spot where new pilots go to stay out of the way. His wingman is Lieutenant Danny Reeves, a Californian with 2 kills and a scar across his left cheek from a canopy that shattered under fire. Reeves greets Bobby with a nod and tells him to stay close, watch his 6, and do not do anything stupid. Bobby says he will try. Takeoff happens in darkness. The runway lights guide them up, one Mustang after another, climbing into a sky still thick with stars. They form up over the coast, 32 fighters in loose formation. The bombers are already airborne, heavy and slow, their contrails visible as white scratches against the black. Bobby settles into position. His engine runs smooth. His instruments read normal. His hands find the familiar rhythm of throttle and stick. They cross the English Channel as dawn breaks. The water below turns from black to gray to pale blue. The French coast materializes, a dark line interrupted by cliffs and beaches. They climb to 20,000 feet. The air thins. Frost forms on the canopy edges. Bobby's breath comes harder through the oxygen mask. Radio chatter is minimal. Call signs, position checks, altitude confirmations, then silence. They penetrate deeper into France. The landscape below shifts from farmland to forests to rivers snaking through valleys. Bobby scans the sky, left, right, above, behind. Scanning becomes a rhythm. His neck aches within the first hour. The bomber stream stretches ahead. Hundreds of B-17s in tight formations, their contrails weaving a tapestry of white. It is beautiful and terrible. Beautiful because of the geometry, the precision, the coordination. Terrible because Bobby knows what is about to happen. Somewhere ahead, German fighters are climbing. Somewhere ahead, radar stations are tracking the bombers. Somewhere ahead, men are dying. And then the radio crackles. Bandits, 11 o'clock high. Multiple contacts. Bobby's heart hammers. He scans left and up. He sees them. 6 Bf-109s, tiny black crosses against the pale sky, diving fast. Major Hollister calls the break. Bobby's war begins. The formation explodes. 4 Mustangs break in 4 directions. Bobby pulls hard right, away from the diving Bf-109s. His vision grays at the edges. He grunts against the G-forces, tightening his stomach muscles, fighting to stay conscious. The stick feels alive in his hand, vibrating with airframe stress. He rolls wings level, scans for threats. 2 Bf-109s are already climbing away, zoom climbing back to altitude after their first pass. 2 more are turning, looking for separated targets. One is behind Danny Reeves, closing fast. Bobby calls it out on the radio. Reeves brakes left, hard. The Bf-109 follows. Bobby tries to position for a shot, but he is too far away, too slow. The angles are wrong. Then he sees the 6th German fighter. It is above him, rolling inverted, nose coming down, committing to an attack on Bobby. The textbook response flashes through his mind. Extend away, use speed, force an overshoot, disengage. But Bobby has no speed advantage. The Bf-109 is diving. It already has the energy. If Bobby tries to run, the German will simply follow him down, firing the entire way. If Bobby turns, he bleeds speed and becomes an easier target. The doctrine offers no third option, but Bobby remembers the training accident, the gear extending, the sudden drag, the tightened turn radius. His hand moves to the gear lever before his conscious mind approves the decision. He pulls it down. The hydraulics whine. The gear doors open. The wheels drop into the slipstream. Drag hits the aircraft like a hand shoving it backward. The airspeed bleeds off instantly. 280 miles per hour drops to 240, then 200. The nose wants to pitch down. Bobby compensates with elevator trim. The aircraft shudders, balanced on the edge of a controllable flight. The Bf-109 closes to 300 yards. 250, 200. Bobby can see the pilot's head in the cockpit, see the muzzle flashes from the nose-mounted cannon. Tracers arc toward him, bright and lazy. Then Bobby pulls. Full back pressure on the stick. The Mustang rotates violently, the nose pitching up and left. The turn radius collapses. The aircraft pivots around a point in space impossibly tight. The G-forces slam Bobby into his seat. His vision tunnels to a gray pinpoint. He grunts, strains, holds the turn. The Bf-109 flashes past, overshooting by 50 yards. The German pilot did not expect it, could not expect it. No Mustang turns like that. No Mustang slows that fast. Physics betrayed him. Bobby rolls out, raises the gear, shoves the throttle forward. The Merlin engine roars. The gear retracts. Airspeed builds. The Bf-109 is ahead now, climbing, trying to regain position. Bobby has 5 seconds before the German completes his loop and comes back, but 5 seconds is enough. Bobby pulls lead, tracks the target, squeezes the trigger. 650 caliber machine guns converge. Tracers walk up the fuselage of the Bf-109. Pieces fly off. Smoke pours from the engine. The fighter rolls inverted and falls, tumbling out of control. Bobby does not watch it impact. He is already scanning for the next threat. 2 more Bf-109s are diving on Major Hollister. Bobby calls it out, but Hollister is engaged with another German, turning hard. No situational awareness of the threat above. Bobby makes a decision. He drops his gear again. The engagement lasts 12 minutes. When it ends, the sky is empty, except for contrails and smoke. Bobby lands with his fuel gauge showing less than 30 gallons remaining. His hands tremble as he shuts down the engine. The canopy slides back. Cold air rushes in, carrying the smell of burnt cordite and hot metal. Sergeant Walsh climbs onto the wing, inspecting the aircraft. He runs his hand over bullet holes in the tail section. 3 rounds punched through the vertical stabilizer. 2 more creased the fuselage behind the cockpit. Walsh looks at Bobby and asks if he is hit. Bobby shakes his head. Walsh helps him out of the cockpit. Bobby's legs barely support his weight. He sits on the wing root, breathing hard, waiting for the adrenaline to fade. Other pilots are landing. Reeves taxis in, his Mustang trailing coolant from a punctured radiator. Major Hollister's aircraft has a shredded aileron. 2 pilots do not return. Their empty revetment sits silent, ground crews standing nearby with nothing to do. The debriefing happens in the operations tent. Intelligence officers ask questions, taking notes, cross-referencing reports. Hollister describes the engagement from his perspective. Reeves confirms details. Then they turn to Bobby. They ask about his kills. Bobby says he got 1 confirmed, possibly 2 more damaged. The intelligence officer asks how. Bobby explains. He dropped his landing gear deliberately to increase drag, tighten his turn radius, and force overshoots. The room goes quiet. Hollister stares at him. Reeves laughs, thinking it is a joke. Bobby repeats himself. He dropped his gear. The Bf-109s could not adjust. They overshot. He got firing solutions. The intelligence officer writes it down, skepticism obvious in his expression. Hollister asks if Bobby understands how insane that sounds. Bobby says, "Yes, sir, but it worked." Hollister dismisses the briefing. He tells Bobby to stay. When the tent empties, Hollister sits on the edge of a table and rubs his face. He asks Bobby if he's trying to get himself killed. Bobby says, "No, sir." Hollister asks if he realizes what happens when landing gear deploys at high speed. Structural stress, control issues, potential for gear failure. Bobby says he understands the risks. He also understands the alternative. The alternative is dying. Hollister stares at him for a long moment. Then he tells Bobby not to do it again unless he has no other choice. Bobby agrees, but word spreads. That night in the barracks, pilots gather around Bobby's bunk. They ask him to explain. He sketches diagrams on scrap paper. Drag coefficient increases dramatically with gear extended. Airspeed drops rapidly. Turn radius decreases proportionally. The trade-off is energy. You sacrifice speed for maneuverability. It only works if the attacker is committed and cannot adjust in time. It only works once per engagement. After that, the enemy expects it. Reeves asks if Bobby plans to try it again. Bobby says only if necessary. Reeves says he might try it himself. Hollister overhears and tells them both to shut up and get some sleep. But the idea is planted. 3 days later, another mission, another engagement. Reeves drops his gear when a Bf-109 bounces him from above. The German overshoots. Reeves gets the kill. 2 days after that, another pilot tries it. Then another. The maneuver spreads through the squadron like wildfire. By April 1944, the gear-down maneuver has moved beyond Bobby's squadron. Pilots from other groups hear about it during briefings, over drinks in the officers' club, through letters written home and shared between units. Some dismiss it as suicide. Others are curious enough to test it during training flights. The results are undeniable. When executed correctly, the maneuver works. The sudden drag creates a turning radius no German pilot anticipates. The overshoots are consistent. The vulnerabilities are exploitable. But the technique requires precise timing. Deploy the gear too early and the attacker adjusts. Deploy too late and the cannon shells arrive first. The margin is narrow, measured in seconds. Pilots who hesitate die. Pilots who commit survive. Flight instructors back in England begin receiving reports. They interview pilots who have used the maneuver successfully. They analyze gun camera footage showing Bf-109s flashing past American fighters with gear extended. Engineers are consulted. They calculate the drag coefficient of deployed landing gear. They model the effect on turn performance. The numbers confirm what pilots already know through experience. The gear acts as an aerodynamic brake, increasing drag by approximately 40%. At combat speeds, that translates to a reduction in turn radius sufficient to force an overshoot against an attacker committed to a high-speed pass. The tactical implications are significant. For the first time, American fighters have a defensive option that does not rely solely on speed or altitude advantage. The maneuver levels the playing field against German vertical tactics. It disrupts the boom and zoom attacks that have been devastating American formations. It introduces uncertainty into engagements where German pilots previously held all the advantages. Luftwaffe intelligence begins noticing the shift. Debriefs of returning German pilots mention unusual American defensive behavior, fighters that suddenly decelerate mid-engagement, targets that become untargetable at the moment of firing, attack runs that should succeed but fail inexplicably. Some German pilots report that American fighters are deploying air brakes, though no such system exists on the P-51. Others describe it as a stall maneuver, though the American aircraft remain controllable throughout. Confusion spreads through Luftwaffe squadrons. Attack doctrine is debated. Some commanders order their pilots to be more cautious, to break off attacks if the target behaves unpredictably. Others insist the reports are exaggerated, that American pilots are simply getting lucky. But the statistics do not lie. German kill rates against P-51 Mustangs dropped by 11% between March and May 1944. Loss reports cite an increasing number of failed attacks, overshoots, and disadvantageous repositioning. Luftwaffe training squadrons begin teaching pilots to recognize the gear-down maneuver and counter it. The prescribed response is to break off the attack the moment the target deploys gear, climb away, and reset. Do not commit. Do not press. Disengage and reposition. But disengagement means mission failure. It means the bomber stream continues unmolested. It means American air superiority inches closer to inevitable. By June, the gear-down technique appears in classified American tactical bulletins. It is not officially endorsed. The risks are too high for formal doctrine. But it is acknowledged as a valid last resort option. Pilots are instructed on proper execution. Deploy gear only when an attack is imminent and unavoidable. Retract immediately after forcing the overshoot. Do not attempt in low-altitude engagements where altitude loss cannot be recovered. Bobby Krauss flies 63 combat missions over Europe. He is credited with 7 confirmed kills and 4 probables. He never becomes an ace. He never seeks recognition. His combat reports are factual and brief. He describes what happened, what worked, what did not. He lands, debriefs, and returns to his bunk. Other pilots call him the farm boy. Some call him the gear man. He responds to both with the same quiet nod. In August 1944, Bobby's Mustang takes flak over Berlin. A shell fragment punctures his coolant system. He nurses the aircraft back across Germany, watching the temperature gauge climb. He crash lands in a field outside Brussels, recently liberated by Allied forces. He walks away with a sprained ankle and a cut above his eye. He is grounded for 2 weeks. When he returns to flight status, the war has shifted. The Luftwaffe is running out of fuel, pilots, and aircraft. The skies over Germany belong to the Allies. Bobby flies escort missions where no enemy fighters appear. He lands, files reports, and waits for orders that never come. The war in Europe ends in May 1945. Bobby returns to Iowa in June. He enrolls at Iowa State University on the GI Bill, studies mechanical engineering, and graduates in 1949. He marries a school teacher from Des Moines. They have 3 children. Bobby works for John Deere, designing agricultural equipment. He patents 4 improvements to combine harvester mechanisms. He never talks about the war unless asked directly, and even then, his answers are technical. He describes the P-51's engine performance, the aerodynamics of high-speed flight, the physics of drag coefficients. He does not describe fear or loss or the faces of pilots who did not return. His wife learns not to ask. His children grow up knowing their father flew in the war, but not understanding what that means. Bobby retires in 1984. He spends his last years restoring a P-51 Mustang at a small airfield outside Cedar Rapids. He works slowly, methodically, teaching younger pilots about the aircraft systems. He sometimes mentions the gear-down maneuver. He explains the physics, sketches diagrams, emphasizes the risks. Most listeners think it is a story, an exaggeration. A few understand it as history. Bobby dies in 1997 at the age of 73. His obituary mentions his engineering career and his war service. It does not mention the maneuver. But the maneuver survives. Modern fighter pilots learn variations of it in training. Air combat doctrine now includes intentional energy bleeding as a defensive tactic. Air brakes, thrust reversers, and vector control systems allow contemporary aircraft to decelerate rapidly in combat. The principle remains unchanged. Sacrifice speed to collapse turning radius. Force the attacker into a position of disadvantage. Survive the moment by doing what instinct forbids. The names of those who use these techniques are recorded in squadron histories and training manuals. The name of the farm boy who first dropped his gear in combat is mostly forgotten, but the idea endures. Innovation often looks like error until it saves your life. Doctrine provides answers for predictable problems. Survival requires solutions for impossible ones.